My mother, Ethel Riggs, was an amazing woman of 96. She was independent. She lived in a house by herself. She still drove. She cooked for herself, took care of the house, and she was very close to her family. My sister and I are her survivors, and she had 3 grandchildren that are survivors too. She was the heart of our family. All of the holidays revolved around her. She was kind of like a touchstone for all of us. I used to come up and visit her. I live in Sacramento. I'd come up and visit at least for overnight, sometimes for as long as a week, and I always felt like I was going on vacation because we would have such a good time together. We would go out to eat, we would go shopping, we would discuss politics. She kept up on everything, and we just had a good time doing things together, cooking together, sharing things, sharing memories. She had traveled all over the world. And the only thing that was wrong with her was she was getting a little deaf and her knees were bad. That's it. She was otherwise in great shape. I mention this because I think we have a tendency in this country to write off older people. And a lot of the people who died in this fire were older because of the nature of paradise, that a lot of people retire there, like my parents did, and also because of the fact that when you're older, it's harder for you to get out of a situation like that. I think that you can see it with the COVID virus, the way people have said callous things like, oh, it's all right, it's just culling the elderly, or we don't have to worry because only the old people are dying. There are 2 problems with this. One, obviously, is that it devalues all life when we take anyone's life and say, this person is not important for any reason. It devalues it for all of us. The other reason is that we have a stereotype that because you're old, you are no longer of value. Obviously, you are of value to the people who love you, but no longer can we assume that someone who's 96 is going to be senile and bedridden and no longer contributing. They could be like my mom, fully engaged with life, fully engaged with her family, and already thinking about what she was going to do for her 100th birthday party. The morning of the fire, my nephew got up and was watching television and saw about the fire. He called her and said, get ready to evacuate. And she got her bag together and everything, waiting for the call that never came. She went out finally after he called again and said, you better leave now, because he knew about fires. He had been a volunteer with the Magalia Fire Department. And she went out to get in her car, and she couldn't open the door because it was electronic and there was no more electricity. She wanted to use the pull cord, but it was over the car and she couldn't get to it. So she called my nephew, and one of my nephews said to her, I'll come get you, Grandma. And as other people have mentioned, he, like others, could not get up to where she was because the police rightly had closed off all the roads. My other nephew, the one who'd been the volunteer fireman, had known people in the fire department, the police department, and EMTs, and called all of them and said, here is a woman who's trapped in her home. Try to save her. No one could get to her. If anyone had gotten to her, they would have died too. But this is a very public fire. I'm watching it. My nephew called me to ask if I'd heard from her, and I was watching it then on television as it all unfolded. It's a very public thing. So everyone has an opinion about that. How, if they had been there, oh, I would have gotten out because I would have gone to the swimming pool, or I would have driven through the garage door. Lots of people told me that one. And I thought I wouldn't have thought of that, and I doubt she did. And if she had, what would have happened? She probably would have died in her car. People who haven't been through a fire don't know what a fire's like. My house burnt down 2 years before this fire, a totally unrelated thing. PG&E had nothing to do with this fire. And I know what it's like. There's nothing you can do except get out if you're able to. And that's what we did with our clothes on our back and what was in my husband's pockets. And that was it. And I lost everything then. What my mother had in her house, that was all lost. My sister lived in Magalia and lost her house, but not her life. But she lost all her things too. So we have nothing left of that. But that's not important. What's important is losing my mother that way. And we all expect these days to have time to say goodbye. We expect somebody to get sick, and unless there's some kind of accident, we expect them to be in the hospital a while. We expect to be able to go there and say goodbye, get used to the idea, even start the grieving process early like that. None of that happened because it was instantaneous. And the public nature of this made it so that everything would bring it up. All the specials on TV, watching those horrible things on YouTube that you obsessively watch, and watching people trying to drive out through that fire and knowing how bad it must have been for it to be like that. Knowing what it must have been for my mother, who had said it was already black outside from the smoke the last time she talked to them, knowing that she knew the fire was coming, that no one was getting to her, knowing that. And it doesn't take very long. I think she died very fast because the way fires go, they take all the oxygen out of the air. They fill the air with smoke. You die very quickly. And you usually die long before the actual fire gets to you. But I walked back into my house when my house burned like an idiot. I took a deep breath. I thought, I'll get something and take it out. I stepped in there immediately. It was pitch black. I couldn't see anything. And I thought, if I don't turn around right now and go back out that door, I could die here. It's that fast. But I had time to think that. And I know that however fast it was, she had time to think about those things. And at night, that's what I think about. I lie there in bed and start reliving those last moments she must have gone through. And then I try to give myself something else to obsess about so that I don't do that anymore. Because what can you do? But normally, you're able to put these things in perspective. You're able to realize that someone's dead and bury them and move on. Well, there was a problem with that too. The DNA that we gave, we were one of the first people to give DNA. And the fellow who had come from back east told us, yes, we'll start being able to identify people within maybe 2 weeks. Great, at least we'll know. And then that went on and on and on. And I called the coroner, and I called the sheriff, and I called here, and I called there. And no, we haven't done that yet. No, we haven't done that yet. And then I got a call that they had used up all the DNA my sister and I had given, all of it. And we had to give it again so they could try to match. That's when I moved to a new level of obsession and misery, because that brought it home to me how hot that must have been. They get DNA out of mummies that are 4,000 years old. They get enough out of mummies that they can figure out which mummies are related to which other mummies. They couldn't get enough DNA out of my mother's remains to match it with us. They get it out of mammoths from the Ice Age. They get it out of amber. And they couldn't get enough DNA out of my mother's remains to match it. Finally, after 7 months, and I had also tried to get the help of the representative for Butte County to help us get her identified. and not identified, but declared dead. And I couldn't do that. I finally had to get my lawyer to do it. Now, why was it so important to do that? Well, if you don't have a death certificate, or if you are not declared the representative of someone in the right kind of paperwork, you can't do any of the paperwork that the people leave behind them. You could call Social Security, you could call their medical, you could call their bank, you can call you can call PG&E, you can call their TV company, you can call to cancel their cable, and all of those people will tell you, I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you because you don't have a death certificate. I couldn't turn off her TV. I couldn't get that settled because I had no death certificate. Instead, I kept getting all of this stuff at my house all the time. And since my sister was dealing with the loss of her house, I was dealing with my mother's business. So all the time, I keep getting all of this stuff, and I keep making these endless calls. And if you have ever called about anything to a company, you know it's not easy to call normally. You know, it's hit this button for this and hit that button for that, and you know there's no button on your phone for a fire or your dead mom. There's no button. Sorry, I'm getting a little wound up here, but it's, you know, it kept it so alive in my mind, and it kept bringing it up, all of these things again and again. And finally, with the pressure of our lawyer, we got the sheriff and the coroner to agree to declare that nobody else could be that person, that remains that they found there. And we got the death certificate, and we were able to do some of that stuff. But I have to live with that recurring nightmare of thinking about those last moments that we know quite a bit about, because we know where she was found in the house. We know what she was going through her mind that morning because she was on the phone with her nephews. And my nephews, they're still beating themselves up thinking, maybe I could have gotten there, maybe I could have done something. And even though there was nothing to do. And my sister and I have to deal with the loss, as my nephews and niece do, of not having mom, who we enjoyed so much in our lives. Our family's scattered all over the place. Our life together as a family is broken. And we have lost all of these things. It's not the same as somebody's mom died. That happens to all of us if things happen in the normal process that your parents die before you. But when they die like this, it's like losing someone on 9/11 without the terrorist aspect, but the fact that it's something that is so massive that it affects all of Northern California. You talk to anybody and they know someone. If it isn't them personally, they know somebody. Or they know somebody whose brother lost something, or their house, or their family, or somehow affected by it. This is our tragedy of Northern California. And it comes up again and again, and every time it comes up, we all relive all of that again. And it will go on for a long time because this is the worst fire we have ever had in California. And every time a fire comes up, they mention that. The worst fire was. Every time PG&E comes up, they mention the fires. And every time they do, it's like a little knife in the heart and a twist. And we go through it all again. And we have another sleepless night. I want to thank you for allowing us to do this, and I thank all of those involved with the process who have made this possible and have been so supportive. And I want to say that while I too doubt the sincerity of the CEO yesterday, I felt better hearing him say all those times when each count was read, "Guilty, Your Honor." I found that cathartic. Whether or not he really felt guilty was irrelevant to me. Hearing that said, "Yes, we are guilty, Your Honor," made a difference to me. So I'd like to thank you all for helping with this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wysocki.